In the bottom left, as the red Protoss, he is DnS.
Sure is. All right, so both of these players look like they're just gonna drop their 2 gateways as per usual and make their 2 units. I'm disappointed.
I think if we see, I didn't actually look, but I could go check. I think if we see some other maps like Pillars of Gold, we can see that mix-up of the Nexus coming out either first sometimes or
really?
after
Before Gateway?
Gateway.
Or after?
Yeah, it was tried. It was tried, and then I think it doesn't happen basically at all anymore. The 1 Gateway expand does happen, but even that kind of has gone through the whole, well, I know that you know that I know situation, so they're trying to block each other's fast Nexus on that map. It can actually be pretty goofy, but as far as Everdream goes, we're still in a typical PvP setup, which goes into a Nexus after 2 to 4 units, and then we'll see how it unfolds from there. As I predicted, I'm still going to say we're going to see a lot more of the basic PvP between these 2 guys. Showtime, known for his macro, known for his normal play, can get weird like any other good PvP player can, but I do think that he feels most comfortable in that macro game. That pylon isn't going to be used. Okay, so Showtime's actually looking around for DNS's pylon now. PvP is...
And that's just the thing about PvP is it's kind of like a weird matchup in the sense that you can't not get weird in PvP, right? Because basically every unit seems to have a use, and every unit seems to counter another unit that would counter another unit, and so on and so forth. It's just such a dynamic matchup. Yeah, it's one of my favorites to watch, especially as it gets later and everyone has like their choice of all techs open.
Mm-hmm. So DNS should have been able to note the lack of second pylon. Looks like he's not really that concerned about it, though. He does not send a bunch of probes around, although his stalkers do start looking around at least for more of a proxy one. Showtime literally planted down one that is like, I hope you never scout me. So it probably won't be scouted. Looks like the attack path certainly right now isn't going to see it from the stalker. So a little bit in the dark.
Yeah. Very cute.
Yeah, DNS did throw down a pylon to see what popped out of Showtime's gateways, because Showtime, I guess with his SimCity, didn't really allow it on going in the high ground. But DNS has not seen the Nexus. At some point, you just kind of give up and be like, well, they're probably going for a Nexus. They're probably doing a normal thing.
Yeah, that's most likely. So both players here with very similar openings in terms of the next side timings. In terms of units, DNS chose to get an extra sentry, whereas Showtime got the extra stalker. So DNS is actually going to have a little bit more of a capability to scout throughout the game at the expense of maybe having a little bit further delayed tech.
Yeah, that extra stalker, I mean, you could argue before the blink days is like going to get more and more useless, but we do kind of anticipate blink from both parties pretty quickly. DNS is the one that goes into a forge a little bit quicker, funnily enough, so he might get ahead in that regard. And yeah, it is just kind of common to skip that robo, especially if you have no reason to believe they're going for a Dark Shrine, which players, maybe not DNS and Showtime, other players. Oh, well, there you go. Oh. There it is, actually. DNS going for blink, but also adding on the Dark Shrine, just to prove me wrong, is actually, well, now I can talk about it. He's actually hoping that Showtime makes a pretty late robo, because robos are coming down later once you assume that you know everything is going on. You want blink faster nowadays. So this could be a problem for Showtime.
Yeah, it's really nice. And Showtime is also about to deceive himself with this scout, which is kind of another thing that DNS obviously did to make the Dark Shrine work and to make it efficient. He had to proxy it. He chose a very random spot on the map. It's looking pretty good here. And is that even a fake gas? Does he even need that gas? I'm not sure. I would have loved for him to drop 2 gases or something just to continue to try and fool Showtime. But yeah, this is cool.
Yeah, with Showtime doing the same thing, it does look to be quite normal. While DTs cost less gas, excellent scout, excellent done. DTs cost less gas than a High Templar. They still cost 100, I believe, right? So it's not like it's been expensive. That was an excellent scout, though.
125, I think.
Actually, I think you're right. It's 125. But anyways, like either way, it's so expensive. This already ruined a bit of the plans, but on top of this, Showtime did get a very well-timed robo, basically, something that would combat a 2-base Dark Shrine, not a 1-base, but certainly a 2-base. So he was actually good, like, on all accounts, and that way this weird scenario where it's like, well, DNS wastes cash on a Dark Shrine and a single DT, is that going to set him so far behind that he can't recover, or can he actually, is he okay with this loss?
Would have been nice to try and sneak out an extra DT just to at least try to morph him into an Archon or something a bit more useful, or maybe this is okay to keep just for, he's just keeping it out on the map like an observer or something, it seems.
Yeah, I guess why not? I mean, it could be used later when things are a little more hectic. And it is honestly a question. I mean, if he had warped in 5 DTs or 4 DTs and a Warp Prism, which, obviously wouldn't have gotten his own Robo, but say that happens and that gets picked off without doing anything at all, I mean, that's pretty bad. And while it sucks to lose the Dark Shrine, which you're going to remake later in a PvP like this anyways, I feel like you do just there's a point where you cut your losses is actually not that bad. And that's the question. Did DnS just cut his losses fast enough? Kind of seems that way. Even Workers, even Nexus timings, basically. It doesn't seem like he's that far behind. And Showtime, if there is one thing his PvP needs to work on, is he lacks a bit of the killer instinct in this matchup. He has let games where he's been ahead just get out from under him, and he's acknowledged that. So it's still where he feels safe, but if DnS was actually super far behind, it's very realistic that he would come back regardless.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I like what DnS did, because behind the DT, he basically said, okay, that's DTs, but if Showtime didn't have that well-timed Robo, he thought he could maybe abuse that by getting an earlier Nexus at the expense of cutting units, and that's kind of what he does, and that's kind of how he seems to have somewhat caught up. But yeah, I agree. If Showtime, decided, what, I have all the pieces, maybe this is the time where I press the gas pedal and attack and deny his third and then take my third or something of the sort, or even try to kill him, I think it might have been a strong move.
So Showtime at least got a little bit of an economic lead. He's been up about 6 workers for the past 30-ish seconds. It's going to quickly go away as they both get fully saturated on 3 Nexus. You don't need more probes than that. DnS goes for Disruptors, Showtime goes for Archons, and Showtime's going to be hitting a pretty crisp attack timing with charge and +2, it looks like. His Warp Prism was scouted, but he's also going to fake a Warp Prism to the left, which is kind of cool. Open to draw DnS out of position. DnS will be dependent a lot on this one Disruptor. Just one. That's definitely the most uncomfortable period for DnS.
Yeah, most definitely. Showtime as well, situating some defense before moving out, some cannons and shield batteries, so doing everything he needs to do. This is a strong attack. He's going to have to go through chokes, and, the Disruptor could be extremely powerful at chokes. There's also not that many Zealots at the moment. So units are gonna kind of clump. I think DnS might hold just fine here.
I think so. Anyway. It is always scary when you're only down on 1 Disruptor. It might hit an Archon and not fully kill it, or it might just whiff entirely. But it looks like he's gonna buy enough time to get up to 3 Disruptors. Showtime, it's not really that he missed an opportunity. Maybe there was a slightly stronger opportunity 15 seconds faster, but DnS really has not been that far behind in this game, despite that Dark Shrine being taken down like it was. And now, even if he was 20 army supply behind with 3 Disruptors, that easily makes up that difference of supply. And he's actually ahead in supply right now. Showtime has, I guess, admitted he won't be breaking DnS for now, and is also going to go into a Robo Bay for Disruptors.
Yeah, and a very quick fourth behind it as well. Very quick. I say it was dropped a while ago. It's nearly completed now, so he does use the space for something that he, at the same time, is denying DnS from doing, which is pretty nice. It's a... Oh! Huge pickup! I guess it's just mostly sell. It's still an expensive pickup, and the potential for aggression there for Showtime. If DnS wanted to move out, it wouldn't be so bad. The fourth of Showtime, though, I really like it because it's very out in the open. This is where Disruptors are gonna struggle the most doing their damage.
Right, running into that concave, you would need a decent number of Disruptors to guarantee shots, and well, he's almost there. He's gonna have 7 Disruptors, and we finally have Dark Shrines for both players coming back into play. No doubt both of them will be adding on DT Blink. Probably Showtime first, as he does have the superior economy. But yeah, it's gonna get to that point where they are trying to distract each other so the Disruptors get the real hits. There's actually a lot of really cool things to note about this style of play, but we'll hold off in case there is an engagement. DnS is sharking around, looking for something, but that's actually not even Showtime's entire army. And DnS should know that. That's not a Protoss army right there. Where's the rest of it? Where's it coming at? It's coming from the left side. He doesn't actually know about this. Showtime's setting up a complete surround. Doesn't quite get the Disruptor on the left side, but is Zealot on top of the Disruptors. They can get very
nice blink.
fire. Finally, they are firing over on the left, but the Stalkers on the right are looking to overpower. Disruptors from the top for Showtime, getting at least one Disruptor themselves. Both of them with extreme concaves. Not a lot about... Ooh, that was a nice Disruptor shot. Not a lot about the splash there. And it actually ends up that Showtime is just ever so slightly behind in that army supply. Apparently, he took a slightly worse trade.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that went really well for Showtime, considering the armies, considering the terrain. It looked like DnS was taking this path before, and that's what I was thinking he should have done from the start, because then you're fighting in a choke. You don't have the possibility of getting flanked, and units are naturally more clumped up because they're not out in the open. But fighting where he did, there's 3 possible paths that he can get sandwiched from, and Showtime made great use of that. A beautiful defensive blink during that fight, though, from DnS. I really like that. Not a common thing to just, blink into your units to shield them. So that was nice.
It was nice. And that was possibly, one of the... Oh, we get some big attention. 2 Disruptors go down. Could have been much worse. Anyways, that was probably the most open fight we'll see. There's actually literally so much room for both of them that one of the problems was that their Disruptors weren't reaching anything. The blink back helps, obviously, for that, but... the Disruptor's just too far out of play to really be the kingmakers in that fight. So it's still a very even game. Both finally getting to DT blink, and now maybe we could talk a little bit about the ideas behind the Supreme late game. I'm always hesitant though, because I feel like the fight's about to come, and once again, look at the Disruptors.
Yeah, I mean, with Disruptors, you never know. The game could end very suddenly. And yeah, to all your points, I agree. That the thing for me is DnS had 6 Disruptors to Showtime's 2, and Showtime fired first. So it was basically 6 on 1. If he just chose the right angle, it was so difficult for Showtime to engage that I feel that was an opportunity missed for him. Now, the Disruptor counts are high enough for both players. So the volatility of this game is up. I've never seen one of these games not have just gigantic, I killed all your Disruptors with 1 shot type moments.
All right. Looks like the stop picking up the Disruptors there. Very dangerous, very bold move from Showtime, but I believe it netted them 1, if not 2. Defensive weapons from DnS's PvP does get a little bit silly, you guys. So what we're seeing now in late game PvP is observers coming along with harassment armies, as you see here. We see higher probe counts, it feels, than ever before, even sometimes into the 80s. A lot of expanding and a lot of harassment, and a lot of keeping your main army focused more on the Disruptors so that you can fill about 20 supply with harassing units. That didn't go so well.
Yeah, that is actually kind of how it's working at the moment. I guess there's the Stargate transitions at some point when players start building more of a bank, perhaps, and feel comfortable in doing that. But yeah, here's the squad of DnS at the north as well. It's a big one, but there's a lot of defensive DTs.
It's so silly. +1 shield is finishing up for Showtime, which I do like that upgrade better. It's also faster than DnS's armor. Showtime was also a bit faster to the Stargate, so obviously if we go into Supreme, really, really late game PvP, we do talk about the Stargates. Not so much about the Phoenixes, which are more of an early to mid-game response to Disruptors, but actually into Tempests, as carriers can be a bit risky of a move to go for. So we'll see which one they're both thinking of. They're both getting there around the same time, but Showtime has managed to finally outmaneuver DnS, run past the army, and is forcing a bit of a literal base trade, perhaps just 1 for 1, and they both leave, or an actual base race. We'll see how much they're committing to this.
Yeah, this was a great call from DnS, right? He gets out-positioned and says, okay, well, I cannot reclaim that position without taking a lot of losses, so I'm just gonna take a position on your side of the map instead, and this is great play from him. However, Showtime is trying to stay 1 base ahead, so DnS has to make a little bit more happen here.
Disruptors at Showtime getting a kill on another Nexus, actually. And now coming back, DnS could get surrounded. He's got to be very careful. He has 8 Disruptors, or at least 7 with his army. The Disruptors! Oh, they're being paid attention to. Showtime shot first.
God.
They both trade out a little bit, but they very aggressive blink on top of those Disruptors, takes on every single one. And the DTs from earlier also coming into play to grab a lot of those Stalkers before they can recall. Showtime now 60 supply above, also has that left base, although maybe not for very long. DnS going to go into full harassment mode to try and buy some time to make up for the Disruptors he just lost. That's a big, expensive thing to make up for, though.
Yeah, I think that was another positional mistake from the side of DnS. I feel like this has plagued them a little bit throughout this game, right? Those disruptors exposed in the back, even though he knows or should expect that the army of Showtime is pulling back from the attack that they were just engaged in. So, yeah, I feel like if he tucks himself into a position where he can't get surrounded, like into the third of Showtime, for example, against the wall, he'll at least trade a lot better. So a little bit of the I don't know if choky moments is fair to call it. Showtime just capitalizing really, really well on all the positional mistakes, and now he seems to have a grip on this game.
I think he does. With the ability to also get those Tempests out, he has both leads. He has tech lead, well, he's gonna have 3 leads, economy, tech, and army supply. So DnS is gonna have to hope for some amazing disruptor shots to make up for this. So far, it's not happening. Maybe he was also hoping an observer wasn't with the army, but Showtime, not only with an observer, also has an oracle. He's not gonna get bopped by DTs. That's how he's gonna lose this game. I like that DnS is trying to make it complicated, once again into a bit of a base race. This is where things get hectic. This is where people make mistakes. But Showtime, I don't think his potential for making mistakes seems a little bit smaller than DnS.
Yeah, much smaller. I mean, those disruptors are the only thing that's really keeping DnS in this game, and they have to get insane value for this to become a game again. Because I mean, even mining-wise, Showtime, you know, supply-wise, army-wise, he's just behind in every regard.
DnS is struggling to get some income, but Showtime, I guess, doesn't have the bank won't make up for an amazing disruptor shot from DnS. If Showtime loses 6 disruptors, then things will really turn on its head. But he's going to be very careful not to let that happen. With Revelation not only tagging the DTs, but also just the army, he has the best knowledge of army positioning. They've both been trying to tag it with hallucinations or with stalkers, you know, going around. But this is actually just the easiest thing for Showtime now. You can always get the first shots. Oh, not that time. Oh, the big collapse in. Ooh, okay, 2 disruptors go down, but it looks like DnS's army just isn't going to be good enough. He's forced to retreat with just of his stalkers. His disruptors did not make it out of this fight, and DnS is going to be losing this fight and probably the game. I mean, you don't ever want to give up because disruptors, right? But that's really starting to stretch a little bit.
Yeah, disruptor at this point, I think. So about to, you know, with disruptors, maybe you don't give up. With disruptor, maybe you're like, I don't know. It's a rough one, but yeah, let's see what he can do.
1 disruptor to rule them all.
Can he get the Tempests, like with if it aims high enough? Oh, not looking like it.
If you just push the disruptor on its back, it'll work out. I'm surprised the DnS is sticking in here, but I guess from his knowledge, like, maybe this is more of a new base. Maybe there wasn't as much of a bank for Showtime. But this, again, is not even all of Showtime's army. GG as the DTs run into DnS's third. Showtime with the 1-0 kind of had the advantages everywhere we looked, but for most of the game, they were only slight advantages. Even with the Dark Shrine going down, it really wasn't a catastrophe for DnS. He just took a bad fight when things got as hectic as they do with disruptors.
Yeah, if we look at if there was a graph to show, I think it would show that there's 3 big fights in that game, and they're all won by positioning from Showtime, collapsing onto the army of DnS from multiple sides to make it more difficult for the disruptors. And that's great on Showtime to capitalize on those positions, but also that speaks to DnS being out of position, not hugging corners and kind of maybe not, I don't know, leaving units to see beside or behind. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's very complicated because there is a lot of half information in those fights. Until the revelation was out, you were kind of guessing over where their army was 2 seconds ago as your hallucination gets sniped or just disappears. They both were pretty good at trying to figure where they were, but I mean, it does feel like sometimes in any game of StarCraft, whoever's more decisive does win, and it felt like Showtime with that decisive maneuver to get on top of DnS's Nexus actually started the ball rolling when it was a little bit of a, there's a little bit of a lock there until that move. But DnS certainly shouldn't feel bad about that game. He got to a very good point, and hell, if he doesn't lose the Dark Shrine earlier on, maybe he'll be even in a better point. I mean, he was even, and that happened, so just don't go for the hidden Nexus or the hidden Dark Shrine, right? I brought up Nexus because I'm thinking of Nexus because we're on Death Aura for game 2. This could be an exciting macro game as well.
There will be Nexus, and they will have that decal on the bottom of them, the glowing. They're gonna be on the glowing Death Auras, the Death Auras.
Yep, I guess that's what they are.
Yeah, is that what? Yeah, I guess.
Maybe.
Well, it's an aura, and it's terribly looking, so it's yeah. Look at it. And in the bottom right-hand side of Death Aura, on top of a Deathly Aura, it is DnS.
In the top left, up 1, he's the blue Protoss Showtime.
Yeah, and I'm not sure whether, because I think, yeah, Showtime kills the Dark Shrine, but like you said, I think DnS was in such a good position. If we go back to the first attack, I would personally take DNS's army over Showtime's army. I'm not sure what other players or what you think there, like if you favor either army. But I thought, 6 disruptors, 7 disruptors against 2 and 1 shoots first. Oh, that looks amazing to me.
When he had the higher disruptor count, I think theoretically it is the better army, but there is definitely that complication with Zealots. Like, it's fine to push off Zealot speed for a while. I sound like I'm a Brood War caster. Charge for a while, but you do want those charge lots. And then if you use them correctly, it can really complicate matters for the disruptor user. Because I think when you try and set up those perfect disruptor shots, there's actually a lot of prep beforehand. I know everyone in chat's going to be like, disruptors are, one shot kill. They're stupid. They're just like, you're not paying attention. If you ever try and use disruptors, there's a lot of planning involved, actually. And it feels like charge lots always mess up that planning. So sometimes the better army isn't necessarily just the one with the most disruptors. Both going for fake pylons, it looks like, and they're both going to find each other.
Nice. And yeah, I agree. I just don't think there were that many. Like, there were like 6 or something charging, flanking. I think the problem was the flank and the position more than anything else. But yeah, I'm with you. Charge lots can definitely complicate matters for disruptors. In Brood War, I at least back when I played mostly, we call them legs, Celot legs.
Yeah. I know. I chose the one that no one ever says, speed. But in like my mind, sometimes nowadays with the whole like they get a base speed upgrade, sometimes I feel like that is a more frustrating thing than their charge. But yeah, of course it's charge here. And as I was saying before we got into game, I do anticipate another macro. I mean, Death Aura just is one of those nice maps for 3 base setups. It's not very short. You get 3 base on kind of like a high ground situation going. So I think that's where we'll be headed, even as DnS throws down a 1 base Stargate. That's about as, like, it's the committal on 1 base that isn't really that much of a committal. But we'll see if he can actually get anything done with it, as Showtime hasn't quite scouted it yet. If he saw the Nexus timing, he would know. He hasn't gotten that close.
Yeah, really nice job by DnS as well, because he didn't have information on the units of Showtime. Like, Showtime knew it was Stalkers and was very actively trying to get around them, but DnS, checking every which way, will find the adepts of Showtime, and so far has done a good job of denying them. However, if he shades now, there's 2 Stalkers that are, okay, they're gonna get just in position, back in position.
He might be able to see the Nexus this time. And yeah, the Stalker opening might have been like a little bit of like, hey, he's not gonna go for it. But with the Nexus, there's not many things you would delay a Nexus for. If you're getting a Nexus at all, right? If there's no Nexus, okay, start panicking. But if there's just a later Nexus, then it's probably gonna be that Stargate. Showtime doesn't really have to commit a lot to defending against Stargate, though. He just needs a couple Stalkers in the main. He's actually playing pretty defensive, shield battery in the natural.
Yeah, so Showtime just scouted DNS's Oracle with a hallucinated Phoenix, and DNS didn't really alter the Oracle's path at all. And now it's altering it, but if you look at the minimap and the path that it has cleared, it's hidden so much later than it could have, especially once it got scouted. I feel like he should have just made a V-line towards the main or natural. As it stands, though, he's gonna find 1 probe, and otherwise nothing else.
Yep. Showtime was already kind of maneuvering his army even before he made a shield battery, even before he warped in those Stalkers. Like, I think he already had like a bit of an idea, and then obviously seeing the Oracle is a big confirmation there. And the shield battery, while maybe you could argue is not strictly necessary, he's gonna have stalkers in the main, 2 Oracles gonna be there anyways, and they shoot past a shield battery. I think the idea is that eventually you will kill one of these Oracles. You will catch them being a little too greedy. And maybe it gives you just even half a second to respond a bit faster. It's also just Showtime. I mean, he has a bit more flexibility. He went for something that was very macro-oriented. And while he's, quote unquote, wasted shield battery money here, he still has that 4-worker probe lead. He still got the faster Nexus, and they should not take too much damage from this.
Yeah, a little surprising that shade goes through. Okay, uses the Oracles as well, so that's a little bit nice. 4 probes go down for 2 Adepts. Not a great trade, but I like the idea of at least using the Oracles while fire is being drawn to them.
That is always a great idea, but there were just so many units, plus a shield battery that was like, I mean, maybe if the Adepts are on the right side, like the shield battery doesn't help at all. But of course, the idea is that with 2 Adepts and 2 Oracles, you don't even worry about the shield battery, but that's with absolutely perfect micro. They had so many units there. Showtime did lose the worker lead I had just brought up, but it already has affected this game. I mean, the income graph has been a bit in favor, with just a spike because the probes were pulled in the DNS's side. But that has kind of gone into that faster Nexus. And then also Showtime not dedicating to a robo yet. He's been able to push that off entirely because he really knows that DNS is not going to go for a Dark Shrine this game. Not with a Stargate opener. If a Dark Shrine comes down, it's going to be a little bit later. So we will see a robo eventually, but it is going to be more of a classic PvP setup for DNS. Charge Immortal Archon versus the new PvP of Blink from Showtime.
Yeah, I think Charge fares well against Blink though, right? Or do you feel like Blink is more powerful? I think that Blink is necessary for Showtime, right? Because of the Stargate opening and just the way that he already has a lot of stalkers. But I like what DNS is doing in the sense that he's adding Charge, anticipating perhaps that Showtime will go for Blink. He may not have time to finish it though.
This is certainly one of the more classic matchups before Blink really took hold. Is like, yeah, if they were up against a Stargate, it'd be a good thing to get. But the idea is that with Blink, you get that faster 3rd Nexus and you have a lot more mobility to make fights like this happen. I'm not sure if this is a correct fight to take, but Showtime seems to think so. And yeah, you have more flexibility. Your army's just more mobile. Even some nice force fields coming down here as Archons are still not yet in play. An aggressive Blink forward, getting an Immortal. Showtime, man, really trying to make something happen here. Is about to lose a couple of units. About to. There we go. Dang, not bad.
Yeah, ultimately a hold for DNS. I thought Showtime would just focus fire the Nexus there, but instead ends up going for some trades and does a good job of that. At the same time, nice job in retaliation from DNS with the Oracles.
Oh my god. Stasis Trap actually really helping out in the offensive. The Oracles were getting some nice damage done, but Showtime just went back in with more reinforcements. He was dedicating with that proxy gateway. I just wasn't sure it was actually a good idea to dedicate, and maybe he's regretting that a little bit now. He saw, I guess, not a lot of units protecting the Immortals, but when that Stasis Trap took away 5 of his own Stalkers, made it a bit more complicated. He's still going to go in for it, tries to grab that Immortal, but it runs back to the shield battery. And the Stalkers of DNS, while they don't have a lot to offer here, they were just being able to fire away. Showtime couldn't focus those down, as well as the Immortal. So far, a nice defense from DNS. Showtime might be regretting committing so much to this. First, the attack not quite grabbing that Nexus, and then the Oracle hitting his probe line, and then that Stasis Trap taking away a 1/3 of his army.
Yeah, that was really nice positioning as well after the Stasis Trap on the side of DNS, pulling back the 2 Immortals preemptively, and Showtime clearly wanted to go for the snipe on one of those, but DNS was already well pre-positioned and just pulls it back to the battery. Really, really well done by him. And I would say he maybe has a lead here, right? In terms of army comp, at least it seems that way. There's the charge routes.
Yeah, I don't know if the charge is really going to do what Showtime was hoping for. I could see the insistence for the 2nd and maybe even 3rd attack of Blink Stalkers, but I said it twice, I was like, oh, Showtime probably regrets doing it, and then he did it a 4th time, and I'm like, well, this kind of makes sense that Showtime now has to run away. I don't think he was really in the position he maybe thought he was. Now, it still is that idea that he has a bit more flexibility with the Stalkers to choose moments like that and get a faster base. Again, he's got a faster 4th, but as you were kind of pointing out, like eventually the army of DNS is better. And we're at that point, and now Showtime doesn't even have, that convincing of a Stalker count. He's trying to go into his own Archons, but it's maybe a time for DNS to run in here and actually I mean, you can kill Showtime. This is kind of promising.
Yeah, Stalkers just do so little damage. They're great support, and they're necessary if like there are units to snipe, Warp Prisms, even if you have a high enough Stalker count to snipe Immortals or chunky units like Archons, it's cool. But once the charge slots are out, they are such a great counter to them. So you have to kind of switch. At the same time, 4 Archons is great, and the shield battery overcharge. Showtime could hold. Oh, nice focus fire though from
nice
on the battery.
The shield battery, definitely something you want to take out here, but there's a couple of things going in Showtime's favor before the start of this fight, and it looks like DnS is not going to get the victory that he was hoping for. The Archons of Showtime powering through thanks to the help of those shield batteries. The Stalkers blink on top of that Warp Prism, and are able to take out every other unit. DnS now falling behind in supply, and is falling behind in the 4th timing. A couple of things happened there that was really unfortunate for DnS. One, his Zealots went into a concave of Archons that were powered by shield batteries. That was a problem. The second problem was that +2 actually finished for Showtime, which I think he was hoping that wouldn't happen, basically, just like in the nick of time. And then, I think the positioning was just really nice for Showtime. The Zealots evaporating thanks to the Archon count that Showtime was barely able to get. That was actually like, oh, that was close. Was fantastic, and DnS is overcommitted here.
Yeah, I think the setup for Showtime was really nice, and he had all 4 Archons in a concave. So yeah, if DnS could have just pulled back, maybe gone for a flank with some of those Zealots, or just sent some of his army elsewhere so that the splash damage isn't as taxing and Showtime is forced to kind of match him somewhere else, then I like it. Or even if he retreats after the shield battery, but attacking with all of the Zealots at the front, it just gives Showtime too strong of a start to that fight. That in an open field would go without question to DnS. So really well done by Showtime. And yeah, once again, he's in control. And I dare say, again, mostly through positioning.
Yeah, kind of like last game. With a different composition, but yeah, the positioning really worked out well. And with a 40, almost 50 supply lead, DnS, he's got to depend on Disruptors to bring him back in this game, but they're not out quite yet. DnS's Immortals are also looking really
There's no
big.
battery. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, pretty far back, so maybe Showtime waits a little while, but the Immortals of DnS they don't look so strong when they're facing those Zealots. The Zealots of Showtime are disappearing as well. The Archons are doing their job there, so it's not going to be an easy A move to win, and this actually did buy DnS time for at least 1 Disruptor, 2 Disruptors to pop out, and he just gave up that 4th Nexus. It sucks to lose 400 minerals, but at least he just gave it up, and he's replacing it to the left.
Yeah, it's strange. I really like, every time I look at the decisions in terms of what army to make, I like the decisions of that DnS goes for, especially from behind, from ahead. I think he recovers really well in theory. I'm not sure about why would you go down your ramp though right now onto a concave of, Archon Zealots. I love, for example, that shield battery. I love so many things about his play, but yeah, he takes weird engagements, it seems.
This 1 Disruptor, not really going to get very much. Showtime splitting those cotton balls is about as well as you possibly can. They're pretty big. They're not easy, but DnS looks like, I mean, despite the Disruptor shots not being super, super amazing, they got some good ones, but nothing spectacular. I mean, they did make Showtime focus on the Disruptors, right? Whenever you're microing against a Disruptor, your army's not firing. So DnS had barely enough supply to make that hold possible, thanks also to the layout of Death Aura, using that choke whenever he could. Although maybe, overextending a couple times. But yeah, what do you do about the 4th base? Whether it's over on the right side or the left side, it's more of an issue. As you can see here, very aggressive blink forward. Gonna grab both Immortals. Usually a very nice thing to trade out for, but Showtime has another army on the right side. It's not even all of it.
Yeah, the Disruptors were left to fend for this base, but they're all out of shots, and now... Oh, I'm not sure. What? Okay. Good guy, Showtime.
DnS grabbing another Archon, trying to get a good shot with the Disruptor, but good split from Showtime Zealots. And Showtime really, he's like, you know what? No, I can definitely win here. Like, it's taken me a little while longer than I thought it would, but I can definitely win here. He wants to win. And even if he doesn't, I guess he is still grabbing a 5th Nexus and a Dark Shrine and more upgrades as well. DnS needs the army of Showtime to really come up more. Finally grab those Zealots, and he still has his Disruptors alive, so that is something. But the flank, maybe it's going to be too good. How many Disruptor shots are left over? The blink aggressively to the left side to find the Warp Prism. Disruptors from Showtime are going to get some nice shots. Not really good target fire there from DnS once again. And he is barely holding on. My God, DnS. Dang. That supply,
amazing.
40 supply difference. He was flanked, and DnS is actually held here with his 4th base alive.
Yeah, really good prioritization during that fight. Showtime incredibly indecisive, and again on the north base at the third of DnS, he had a favorable engagement. DnS was out of shots. He had Zealots attacking probes. He had units there, and then he decided to back. I think because, like you said, he saw the opportunity where he thought on the other side I can win, and I can't look at this side right now or something like that. But he pulls back from a winning engagement ultimately. That would have closed the game, I think, on that side as well. So opens the game up for DnS. DnS this time around capitalizing. Let's see if he can keep the ball rolling.
Ooh, perfectly timed cannons are going to throw those DTs. Back to maybe patrol a 5th base, but they're going to need some buddies if they want to try to take down the 4th. And Showtime he's not in a position that we thought he would be. He actually doesn't have a bank to just make a bunch of DTs. He's about to lose his 5th base. That was supposed to be what he got ahead from, at least, if not actually win the game. He's supposed to have a faster 5th, and things really have changed up. I love that he saved his probes, though. So still a 69 worker lead to DNS's 59.
Yeah, that is really nice, but we have now a DnS that is very well restabilized and has a very, very scary army. It's all gonna come down to disruptor shots once again, so I really hope we see some adjustments in positioning, and yeah, I would love to see this go to a game 3.
Well, while it's an amazing hold so far from DnS, he does still find himself behind pacing-wise, I would say, in PvP. He is behind on the upgrade, and he once again chooses armor over shields, which, I mean, I'm sure he has his reason for it, but I like Showtime's upgrade better. And doesn't have DT Blink, doesn't have a Dark Front at all. So he is going to be the one having to deal with harassment without being able to do his own harassment. The best he can do is threaten with his disruptors, which he is doing, which is nice, but he doesn't have the other squad going on like Showtime does.
Yeah, and these Archons are a little bit clunky, so they can be targets for the disruptors. They usually sit a little bit at the front as well. They're gonna be great against Zealots, however, but there's not that many Zealots, I think, out on the field, so.
Yeah, not too many. Literally one. That's a Zealot. Ooh, Blink's got to save that. Run away from that engagement. I was hoping to catch, I think, shows him a little more off guard, but the other thing that showed that DnS is missing, sorry, is an observer, so actually, DTs could even jump on top of DNS's army. But just trading out the disruptors so far. It is 9 disruptors for Showtime versus just 5 now of DnS, so he's not really winning that war either.
Yes, indeed. However, you know, one of these can kill everything. That will remain true until the end of time, which is why DnS stayed in that last game so long. There's the squad of DTs. Will be met by an army with an observer if he can see it.
Oh, he was so close to. He was so close to accidentally running past it. Now they are going to take out the cannons and the shield batteries, which would have been much more helpful. You know, they were actually protecting the army. It is not going to be a good response though from DnS. DnS, using a very small portion of his army on the front lines to pin Showtime back, was building up quite a hefty one back at home. Now doing an excellent job just being defenders. Well done there from DnS. Only down 10 supply with a 5th base on the way. Showtime, well, he's been mining from this 5th base. His economy has always been just a little bit better. DnS, all he needs is one amazing shot.
Resources lost is almost that even. And this is a good position actually for DnS for the disruptors. Now Showtime is going to have to push onto them, but DnS not really capitalizing on it. See, when you have that position, you can fire first every time. That's why it's difficult to break into a defensive position. Once you are in the position in itself, you should be able to zone out your opponent, but, you know, firing a little bit too soon and Showtime gaining space and reclaiming back his, is that a 3rd base, I guess, or 4th base? Not sure what it was for him.
I think the other problem is that DnS ran out of shots. His disruptors were reinforcing, but he was only on 4, I believe, and then the rest came. So he was worried that he was going to be caught with no bullets, basically. He has been doing a great job of catching these DTs, and again, a great job building up a secondary army. It's not full of DTs like we usually anticipate in a 20-minute PvP, but it still is a large Protoss army that Showtime has to take seriously, and it is accompanied by observers, plural. So no just easy DT defense warpins from Showtime.
Yeah, those pylons actually a saving grace, because the entire army or side army of DnS gets spotted. DnS still maneuvering with 2 different armies, trying to see what he can find, but it's actually Showtime that's gonna find 2 disruptors for free. So that's pretty nice. Oh, gotta watch out for those speed zones.
The observers, DnS, down to just 1 observer. It is with his army.
He does have the flank though this time around. Oh, but pay attention, please.
Okay, lost the Disruptor there and a handful of other units. The Stalkers of Showtime are well upgraded. They're about to have +2 shield, actually. They think Blink cracks into a bunch of Zealots, which actually is not so bad for DNS. Everything's focused on the right side. Disruptors are found by DNS's Stalkers. That is a treasure trove right there. And this is actually going pretty well for DNS. It started off looking a little bit wonky, but he's even going to catch the recall. One more Disruptor there.
From Showtime. I mean, positionally, DNS this time had a clear advantage. If he could have been able to fire his Disruptor shots while doing that's a tall ask, obviously. But if he had been able to punish on both fronts, kill some of those Stalkers on the retreat, that would have been amazing. Showtime does the best that he can in saving his army, now forcing a recall onto from DNS. But once again, DNS with the positional advantage coming from a flank. Showtime too smart for it, goes up a choke to safety.
Gosh, this game is, it's pretty cool, but DNS is just losing a little bit too much. He was really hoping to get a little more breathing room, I think, and while he's done about as good of a job as you can ask of anyone, defending against the harassment, he isn't winning the battles necessarily, and he's not taking battles, right? If this is a more passive game and he's allowed to get the 5 bases and he's also maxed out, he's already added a Dark Shrine and Blink and upgrades, and, you know, we just talk about banks at that point, but it's never been really a passive game, and DNS hasn't really had time to make anything other than replacement disruptors and replacement armies. So I really feel like DTs could add a lot to, you know, the back and forth that this PvP provides, but DNS just isn't going to get there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he could still definitely get there, but Showtime is going to make it very difficult. Certainly, there's Revelation already on the army of DNS, so Showtime values very much that information of where your army is and how can I out-position it, and that's exactly what he does with it. Look, that Revelation is what allows this move from Showtime. There is no recall available for DNS. It was just use this base instead.
Showtime knew this was going to happen. He planned on it at least for the past 5 seconds, so he pulls the probes preemptively as much as you can. It would be lovely to have Disruptors hold up in the main base for Showtime, just to ensure that his production isn't also camped, because that could be a real problem for both parties, but it is a bit of a base race. Showtime is taking the right side of the map, however, and it puts him in a much better position, but Showtime is also going to lose. Both of his robos are going to go down, but damn, DNS never got that Dark Shrine. I mean, okay, good thing he takes out Showtime's Dark Shrine. I do like that. Some really important structures there, now dead for our blue Protoss, as he grabs the Disruptor and the Robo in the main base. Full-on base race.
Yeah, it looks like that's exactly what it's gonna be, but like you said, it's Showtime with more terrain on the map. Let's look at units. I mean, there are 7 Disruptors on the side of DNS to 8 on the side of Showtime. Showtime also working with 15 DPs. By contrast, DNS morphed them into Archons, so he has a few of those. Oh god.
Oh my god, the DTs absolutely wrecked all the SAC defense with Blink, and then DNS was like, oh, I'll just, you know, recall, but I think he recalled the wrong units. He should have recalled some Archons with that Observer, but I actually, did he even recall an Observer? I don't think he did.
I don't think
that just wasn't gonna that wasn't gonna well from at all regardless.
Yeah, it was never gonna. That was a little bit of a shame not recalling that Observer, and like you said, Stalker's probably the worst unit that he could have recalled. Their Zealots or Archons would have done much better.
Showtime's got a 10 army supply lead, but that is it. I mean, that's certainly something that can be made up for with Disruptors, and DNS does have 2 Observers now with his main army. I think we're going into last building territory. DNS wants these Disruptors on high ground so bad, but it's just not going to happen. Showtime, he's still killing all the Nexus of DNS. He still has 3 Nexus himself, including his main base, which has gone pretty much untouched. DNS is just, this is his only chance, and he's trying to make it work, and it theoretically could still work. He's got to use a Stalker forward to actually get some scouting done.
Oh, wow.
Good trade.
Very nice. And yeah, if these armies butt heads against each other, DNS can very much make it work. The problem for him is going to be that Showtime has more time, more terrain, and now a bunch more Disruptors to work with as well. So that plus the Oracle is kind of like the X factor as well. But Showtime taking an engagement perhaps a little bit preemptively, not with any Disruptor shots available. I think he should just be pulling back and waiting and making sure, and it looks like that's exactly what he's going to do. Tuck himself into a corner, do the shield battery overcharge, and take this series 2-1 convincingly. That was a great showing by DNS, I think.